The information provided on this podcast is for general informational purposes only and is not intended as a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your qualified healthcare provider with any questions you may have. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard on this podcast. Reliance on any information provided here is solely at your own risk. Welcome to the Birth Baby Podcast. Each week, you'll find guidance, encouragement, and practical tools to support you through pregnancy, birth, and the postpartum journey. I'm your host, Sierra Morgan, a certified birth and postpartum doula, hypnobirthing educator, and pediatric sleep consultant. I'm also the owner of a doula agency in Austin, Texas, and the founder of the Birth Baby Academy, where I offer classes for both parents and birth professionals. Thanks for being here. Hello, everyone. Today I have Laura with me. She is a mental health therapist and owner of Laura Sandoval Therapy in Austin, Texas. With over a decade of experience as a therapist, social worker, and educator, she now specializes in supporting high-achieving, anxious moms, which we are going to talk about today, particularly those navigating postpartum trauma and burnout. So she's known for her warm, no BS approach, which I quite appreciate, and she helps moms feel more grounded, present, and connected in their everyday lives. Outside of the therapy room, she's raising a fierce and sensitive toddler and sharing candid, relatable content on motherhood and mental health. You have got to check out her Instagram. She has the most beautiful aesthetic. It's at Laura Sandoval Therapy. So thank you so much for being here with me today.
Thank you so much, Sierra. I'm so honored.
Yeah, this is fun because you guys, we knew each other a little bit before. We've
Totally.
not seen each other in a long time, but do you want to tell them how we were connected?
Yeah, 3 years ago, like a little over 3 years ago, I had my daughter. And so definitely over 3 years ago, maybe like 3.5 years ago, I was connected to you, Sierra, through Megan Noble, actually, who was my doula at the time.
Who's now a midwife.
I know, she's amazing. I have like this dream that she'll now be my midwife if I have a second baby at some point, not pregnant, hashtag not
and then
pregnant.
I get to be your doula, just kidding.
That would be magical. Can you imagine? What a dream. I know. So hypnobirthing, I really was interested in hypnobirthing. And so I took your hypnobirthing course. It was so much fun and it really helped me and loved having this really empowering magical birth experience. So
I love that so much. So the timing of this is kind of fun because this is coming out in November, and November 5th is National Stress Awareness Day. And we're going to talk about high functioning moms and postpartum anxiety, which is funny because I was at a meetup the other day and Jess, my postpartum doula, was with me, and somebody talked about high functioning moms that just like run really high and they're like achievers, like they do all the business things and whatever. And they were not talking about me or to me, and just like looked at me and started doing this. And I was like, you watch where your fingers are pointing. It was just kind of funny. I was like, yeah, well, I feel seen and heard. So I'm excited to talk to you about this because many women do describe themselves as high functioning or perfectionist is sometimes what we hear. A lot of these also say that they're type A, which I like identify of all of these things. So how do you see the effects of that playing out in the context of motherhood?
Absolutely. And you're not alone. Like, hello, this is me. That is like something I share with folks that, I love working with this population because I am one. Like, this is me, right? And constantly a work in progress, right? And it was what led to me becoming a therapist who of course I work with all of like the perinatal field, but specifically with postpartum and high functioning anxiety and postpartum anxiety. That was me, right? And it took me so long to realize that. So, and a work in progress for sure, trying to be more type B every day and maybe even type C. So
I love that you're even trying that because I'm like, no, I'm type A and I'm here for it, guys. Like, I'm just going to own it.
It's not good for my nervous system with a toddler. Honestly, it's like, it just wasn't sustainable anymore for me. And
hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And if it is broke, fix it, right?
Exactly. So I think with this, to answer your question, right, there's a lot of people, I find that they are approaching motherhood like a project, right? These high functioning individuals, they're researching, they're planning, they're trying to control every single variable of becoming a parent. They're doing all of this work on like the registry, on the birth classes, and all of that is good and fine and important. And then postpartum hits. And for some, it's okay. For a lot of the women that I see, it is like hitting them like a ton of bricks, and it is creating this perfect storm for perinatal mood disorders and specifically for postpartum anxiety. So what we, don't realize is that babies don't follow checklists, right? It creates friction for us. It will fuel self-blame, maybe feeling like we're failing. Like I've succeeded so much and everything. These are anxious overachievers. I know how to get things done. Motherhood hits. Things don't go according to
They're
plan.
like, I'm not good at this.
Exactly. I can't control this. And we feel like failures. I see a lot of women who are feeling like they're failing at motherhood. And so it results in exhaustion, resentment, and constantly feeling like we're falling short.
Yeah, I have a lot of moms that will be like, and I actually ask on my intake form what classes they're taking and if they need any referrals to other classes. But I only like people to take one birth class. And I think that they're surprised because sometimes I have people that sign up with me, but they've already signed up for two other birth classes. And I'm like, okay, well, we need to talk about that because what are we doing here? Like, what is our purpose? Because if you're confident in the class that you're signing up for, we don't need 3 of them. Like we need to pick one. And even if it's not mine, that's okay. Because we're inundating ourselves with so much information. And then we almost can't even grasp onto any of it because we're lightly holding so many things that we can't hold on tightly to anything. And so when I see that, it is one of my little soft pink flags that maybe we need to be watching this mama a little bit more carefully. And sometimes it is dads, to be honest. I have some dads who are like trying to get all of the information. So I'm being stereotypical here, but I do notice that this overwhelm and this need for it to be perfect, if it doesn't, because not all births go perfectly, here to say it, like there are situations where no matter what happens, it's going to go a totally different direction than you anticipated.
Absolutely.
And if we have too much identity and how it turns out, then we blame ourselves or whatever. So would you say this overwhelm that people experience, which I think really starts prenatally and then carries over into postpartum, would you say that postpartum overwhelm is pretty much a sign that it's postpartum anxiety, or are these two different things?
Yeah, it's a great question. They're definitely two different things. Overwhelm, I would say, is common for all moms, right? It's part of the adjustment. I think, I think we need to look at like all factors, right? Like how long is that overwhelm lasting? Are we always feeling overwhelmed? And if that's not necessarily anxiety, that's okay. That's still a great reason to get support. I believe we all need more support, right? When it comes to postpartum. Anxiety does go a bit further though. It's persistent. It can be intrusive. It can affect our functioning, right? And we all have anxiety too. It's there to keep us safe, right? Everybody has some level of anxiety, right? It's there in our bodies, right? It's just, again, at what level? So
it's
for
like
example,
a scale.
It's a scale. Yeah, for sure. And for example, overwhelm might be something like, this day feels hard. Anxiety might say something like, what if something bad happens to my baby, right? What if I mess up and not being able to get out of that loop and we can't stop replaying it. High functioning anxious moms often normalize their anxiety as they're just being a good mom, right? Which makes it a lot harder to identify because they seem like they have it all together on the outside. So a couple of like signs to look for, right? This being as far as the anxiety goes, right? Over preparing and over controlling, obsessive researching. This could be over anything. Milestones, feeding, sleep, right? We see that a lot, like all the tracking. Totally, all the apps, right? Tracking everything. Like, did they poop? Did they? And sure, right? A little bit of tracking, maybe on pen and paper at the beginning, is helpful, but do we really need to be tracking every single thing on every single app? Multiple spreadsheets for baby care, right? Rechecking our tasks, like did I pack enough diapers? All of that. Two, right? Having our productivity as like a mask, like really staying busy to avoid sitting with our feelings. Running on little rest. Right. And again, looking like we have it all together, not being able to rest, right? We hear sleep when the baby sleeps. And that's not necessarily practical for most people, I would say, for a lot of people.
Especially not with a second baby, forget it.
Yeah. but especially, right, like that can be a big signal of anxiety, right? When we're not able to rest, we feel like we can't, even when we want to. Hypervigilance would be another one. So constantly scanning for worst case scenarios. Is the baby breathing? Are they getting germs? And sure, to an extent, we're all worried about these things, I think, as parents and especially our first time parents, right? But constantly being in this loop, right? Difficulty relaxing even when the baby's asleep. Irritability and rage is another one. So not just worry, right? Postpartum rage isn't talked about a lot. There's a lot of shame that can come with that. And it's a huge indicator that something else is wrong, that our needs are not being met as parents. And it can be a huge, red flag, so to speak. I love that you said pink flag, but for sure a big flag at postpartum anxiety. I used to have this, I'll self-disclose there, and I would call it hulking out. Like, it's kind of like you have this Hulk-like experience, and I would just snap at like my partner right in the middle of the night in horrific ways. And in the morning, I was like, who was that, right? Huge red flag that I was needing more support, right? And I wasn't seeing it myself. So that's a big one. Sleep disruptions. We just talked about that a little bit, but not being able to fall asleep at night because we're constantly worried. Maybe we're waking up. I was worried
that I knew I was going to wake up in 2 hours. That's why I couldn't fall asleep, because I knew it was not very long enough that I was going to get to sleep.
That's a thing for sure.
The thing that you just said about like the rage moments, I want to just recognize here that you may be listening to this and going, but I'm not like a perfectionist, high functioning person in general. I was not before I had children. So that doesn't really apply to me. But this whole like obsessing over how many poopy and pee diapers is me, or how many ounces I'm putting in a pump is me, or how many hours of sleep I'm going to get is me, or that something bad is going to happen, I'm not going to do it right. Like, you can still have these things without being somebody who was already like this high achiever beforehand, or like cared about that. It's that the people that, or at least from my perspective, the people that were go, 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 do ahead of time, when we're forced to slow down and we can't get everything done that we normally were able to do, like we find our, like almost like our identity is tied up in being an achiever. So when we feel like we're not being able to get as much done as we thought we should be able to get done, that is where it's like, well, who even am I then?
Yeah.
How can I do this? And so that like snapping is almost like it's almost like we're mad at ourselves, but because we have this really high expectation of ourselves, and then in turn, those around us. Because we want things done a certain way. I'm like sitting here like, this is therapy for me. We want things in a certain way though. And then, but we're expecting our partner to show up and be able to meet that expectation. But maybe our expectation is unreasonable for any other human than ourselves.
Totally. You bring up a huge point, which is like this difficulty, like delegating tasks. Like, we do have high expectations. We've had high expectations for ourselves our whole lives, right? Like sky high. And we've met them. We've been like rewarded for that from society, from others, people love it. Yeah, we're praised for it. And then, when, our partner isn't doing the dishes the way we expect them to, or not, changing the baby's diaper, or our mother-in-law, or, whomever, then, it's like, I'll just do it myself. And that just leads to further exhaustion, further spiraling that like anxiety loop that we're in. Right. Yeah. The other thing, a couple of other things is just, like feeling that a lot of self-criticism, again, feeling like I'm failing, like I'm not doing enough, when, oh my gosh, we're actually doing too much. We're doing it all, right? So those are a couple of things to look out for. Yeah,
these things are so common for people. And I want you to remember, guys listening, common doesn't mean normal. Normal and common are different. But these things are really common. And actually in my hypnobirthing classes, class 5, we talk a little bit about postpartum, and I talk to people about their relationship with their partner if they have one, and how we really have to prioritize it, because it's really easy to become enemies, and one of us is the boss and the other one's the subordinate, when that's not how we should be behaving with each other, because it just breeds disdain and separation rather than being a team. And I talk about like not correcting your partner on how they're doing something unless it's obviously not safe, because so many of us end up parenting our partner on how we want to parent. And that's not really fair, because they aren't going to do things the same way. And our child doesn't need a replication of exactly the exact same parent twice. It needs 2 different parents. And so kind of having that realization that it's okay for us to be different and do things different ways, it's easier said than done, but it is important to recognize.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other, this makes me think of, I love that parenting dynamic that you brought up. It's like with our partners, right? If we have them, it's not cute. I will call clients out on that. Like
Yeah.
you're getting into a parenting dynamic, right? If you're constantly controlling what they're doing and that's not cute. Like that is not fostering connection. That is not fostering like loving care. It's building resentment and like keeping you further and further apart. So
And the whole like doing the dishes because nobody's going to do it right anyway, or nobody folds the towels right, so I may as well just do it myself, again, breeds resentment. Because if you really are holding on so tightly to that, you can only juggle so many balls at the same time before some drop. And your mental health is dropping if you're just not letting anybody help you. And so that is what I find is that people do that. And I'm like, you're going to end up being the default parent. If every time they're changing the diaper, you say they're doing it wrong, they're going to stop changing the diaper. And then you're just going to be the one doing it all the time. Then you're going to be upset and resentful that you're the one that's always changing the diaper. It's just like such a hard thing, especially for those of us that really have a high standard for everything. That is really important. So do you find that a lot of these high achieving moms appear fine on the outside and they're actually really breaking down internally? And if so, why do you think that is? Why are they doing this in silence?
Yes, they've been doing this their whole life. And so we could get at so many things of why. I get that question a lot, like, well, why am I this way? Or where did this come from? And
or why do they keep it quiet?
Right.
Like,
why do they keep it quiet?
Yeah.
I think we're really practiced at masking, right? And like, we've gotten praised for this for so long. And one of my favorite things to do in my work and the way I approach therapy is like, yes, I'm going to give you tools. Yes, we're going to talk about the why and put the fires out at the beginning. But at the end of the day, like, this isn't sustainable anymore, right? To act, to be overworking yourself in this way and to be so high functioning anxious all the time that we're looking to get at the root of the issue. So where is the root, right? At what point did we learn, right? This belief that like, I have to do it all myself, that I know, that I have to be a perfectionist, right? And so I think fear of judgment, if others see those cracks, right? Productivity and control start to become coping mechanisms for us when we get praised socially. You're doing amazing. You're doing it all. Oh my gosh, you're super mom. Oh my gosh, and we hear this a lot, but to me, it's such a trigger point when I hear, oh, like we want to be super moms or you're such a super mom. It's like, no, actually, like we don't want that. We're only fueling, right, the societal expectation that like we can do it all,
keep it
right?
Up.
Yeah, better keep it up. And especially for, these high overachieving, right, like anxious moms.
And I'll use myself an example here. And this isn't even, I'm 7.5 years postpartum, so it's not like it's brand new for me. But I'm the owner of an agency. I have all these people under me. A lot of them only work for me. So I'm the determining factor on whether or not they can pay their bills that month. That's a lot on my shoulders. And some people praise me a lot for all of the achievements, but then they'll also tell me, you've got to take time for yourself, Sierra. Slow down. And I'm like, so which is it? Or I feel like I can't slow down because y'all keep putting stuff on my plate and expectations on me. And one day a good friend of mine said something like, Sierra, you've got to take care of yourself. You can't keep doing this. And I lost it on her. And I said, which is it? Do you want me to make sure that you can meet this goal that you just said is your goal for how much you can make in the next year? This is your 2026 goal or whatever. Or are you cool with me actually slowing down? Because both of those things aren't going to happen. And I went rageful and lost it and yelled at her for the first time ever. And she cried and she was like, I'm so sorry I made you feel that way. And I was like, no, I'm sorry that I reacted. Like, this is my own thing, but I'm okay with being high achieving. And I actually really thrive in this space. But when I feel pulled two different ways, it breaks me,
Yeah. It's like, what's going to be enough, right? And the reality is that, something's got to give, right, at the end of the day. But like, at what cost? I ask that question so much to my clients. At what cost? Right? Are you willing to let some things go? Are you willing to let go of control of whatever, that means for you to, when we let go of this and of these behaviors?
There's an episode coming out, Maria's part 2 birth story. It will come out before this episode. And she talks about her breastfeeding journey and how her sister told her, do you think that your daughter, when she's 16, is going to say, I wish my mom had breastfed me longer?
Yeah.
I wish she hadn't given up at 3 months. Or do you think she'll say, I'm so glad that I had a mom that took care of herself and was able to show up for me in a better way because she gave up breastfeeding because it wasn't serving me or her? And she's like,
Mm,
that's all I needed to hear. She's like, I needed to hear that so badly, and that fixed it. I was like, of course she wants a well-rounded mom who can be there for her and who's not going crazy with pumping,
right.
and crying and
Right.
drowning in my tears.
Yeah.
So I think that a lot of times our culture, our social media, whatever everyone's so perfect on social media, but also cultural pressures of we have in the United States, we have a ton of different cultures circling around us. I deal with a lot of different families from different cultures. Do you think that that really feeds into this disconnect between the external experience and that internal reality and makes it harder for people that are in this kind of group to be authentic?
So much harder. Absolutely. And I have a lot of my clients go through these like social media cleanses as one of our first things. Like, who are we following? How are they making us feel? Social media shows a lot of curated snapshots that fuel comparison. I'm on social media. I love social media. I'm very present on there, right, in my therapy practice and world. And right, I remember what it was like as like a person who was pregnant for the first time and wanting to digest all the things and seeing these lifestyle influencers that showed up as perfect all the time. And I think hustle culture also really glorifies doing it all instead of rest and support in our society, right? Moms feel pressure to match these unrealistic expectations while hiding their struggles. And then it creates a cycle of shame. Why does it feel so hard for me when, it looks so easy for everybody else, everybody being those
The
curated,
people on social media that took an
yes,
hour to
exactly.
create that 30-second reel.
Exactly.
And they probably
Exactly.
were frustrated half the time they were making it,
Yeah, absolutely. I think, there's so much on cultural expectations too, as a society on like, being the mom who does it all, right? Like being you're going to be a full-time working mom and you're going to go back to work and be okay. And like take
and
care of
have
your
homemade
baby
meals.
and have homemade meals and make
And your house is
sourdough,
clean.
right? And your house
And
is clean.
sourdough.
We can't do it all. Like there
No.
is no way. So it's coming from so many angles, right?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it really is. So, for that mom that's listening, that is like, oh my gosh, I feel seen by hearing this. She's saying, should I be able to handle this? Or really, she's like, I'm falling apart. What would you say to her?
So many things. I was you, first of all. You don't have to earn rest or support. You're already
Oh my
worthy of
God, I
it.
love that. You don't
That's
have
one
to
of the
earn rest
biggest
or
ones.
support.
You don't have to earn rest or support. You're already worthy of it. A lot of the moms I see, I hear, well, I'll rest after I empty the dishwasher and fold the baby's laundry and go grocery shopping and have a 30-minute workout, like, no, we can just rest because we deserve it and we need it. And it's actually going to help us show up as a better parent, partner, friend, sister, etc. Struggling doesn't mean you're failing is another one. It means you're human. Mm-hmm. I think for many moms that I see, this is one of the first times that they're struggling with this feeling like a failure, right? Like they're not and again, it doesn't mean they're failing. They're actually not. It's just, adjusting to something they've never done before, right? But the expectations are sky high that to them, they're failing, right? Yeah. The other one is, I guess the last one I'll say is continuing to be in a constant state of overfunctioning and setting these unrealistic sky high standards for ourselves is like constantly trying to study for a test that we're just never going to pass. And sitting with that for a moment, right? It's what if we're never going to pass this test? So how can we lower those expectations that are unrealistic? That is the key word. They're unrealistic.
Oh, I love that so much. And that first one that you said, like, you don't have to earn rest. Now, some of you are listening going, but Sierra and Laura, I cannot rest if I know all of those things are still on my to-do list. And that's when you know that you need therapy and you need help managing your anxieties and stress, because that's not a functioning way to be, right? Like I was up all night with my dog last night. He was every hour to 30 minutes to an hour needing to go out. And I had to take him to the vet this morning. I was exhausted. I was supposed to take my daughter to her horseback riding lesson and watch her. I had a chiropractor appointment I was supposed to go to. I had to cancel both of those things. My husband took her and grandpa picked her up. She's going to live. She was okay. But also I've taught my daughter by modeling that we need to take care of our bodies. And I looked at her, she could see I was tired. And I was like, sis, I was up with Oakley all night. And all I said was that. And she goes, Mom, you don't have to go. Like, we have to show our kids that it's okay to take care of ourselves. I had 1,000 emails. I had somebody emailing me saying, hey, I sent in a request this morning. Did you get it? And it was 40 minutes after they sent their original request. Right. And I'm like, yes, I will reply to you after my meetings today, because I cannot do all the things. So even those of us who are high achieving and high functioning, I'm running 3 different facets of a business, and I serve a ton of moms at the same time. And I have my own kids and my husband, and I have all those balls in the air. I'm still achieving, even though I'm lying down at 10 o'clock in the morning to take a 2-hour nap so that I can show up and podcast with people. And that's okay. And if we model for our children how to take care of ourselves, they take care of themselves too. You can't show this unrealistic expectation. And I always say parents do things better when we think we're doing it for our kids. So like in our hypnobirthing classes, I'm always like, if you're having a trouble breathing and getting full deep breaths, and I say this as a birth doula too, I want you to breathe. Like she'll be, I'm like, I want you to breathe for your baby. I want you to pretend like your breath is filling up your baby's lungs right now. Gosh, we do it so much better when we think we're doing it for our baby, right? So if that's what it takes, I mean, it shouldn't, but if that's what it takes to slow down a little bit and allow yourself rest and recoup, that you see that that's actually the example you're giving to your kids, so maybe they won't struggle with the same thing. Let that be your reason,
It's a beautiful anchor. And I use that a lot, right? It goes back to our values, right? Like, what do you want your kids to see? What do you value? Well, I want them to know I'm present. Okay, well, is this helping you be present? Are you present when you're looking at the baby monitor 10 times, right? In the span of like 10 minutes or something. It's, yeah. And that I think is really anchoring and really grounding to come back to, what do I want for my children one day, right? What do I want them to see? And I learned this from somewhere, but I can break a cycle, right? It can end with me.
Yeah. So if someone is listening and feeling like, okay, this is me, and I am the person that I understand on a logical level that I should not have to earn rest, but I don't know how to implement that. Like, I can tell myself that all day, but I don't know how to implement it. If they're wanting to seek help, what type of professionals or modalities do you find that helps with this sort of thing?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say number one is therapists who specialize in perinatal mental health. Believe it or not, perinatal mental health is not something yet, I'll say yet, it's not part of the curriculum when therapists go to school for becoming therapists. And so
it's just like physical therapy doesn't learn about pelvic floor.
Exactly.
To go do extra.
Isn't that wild? Yeah. It's wild, but there's systemic reasons for everything, I think, but I won't, that's a different podcast episode. I won't get into that.
She flipped her hair, you guys. If you're watching on YouTube, she flipped her hair when she said that.
Don't get me started. It's all systemic. It's all connected. So therapists specializing in perinatal mental health, we have advanced training. We're super focused. Like it's not just, we didn't go to school just like everybody else. We kept going, right? We're getting ongoing training on this and on modalities that support the perinatal population. You wouldn't see a general doctor for heart surgery. So your mental health after birth deserves the same specialized care, is what I like to tell people. EMDR for sure is one of the main modalities that I use. I use it for it, it was created for the purpose of supporting trauma, right? And so birth trauma, NICU trauma, but also for so many other things. I utilize it for anxiety that's rooted in past experiences. At some point, maybe my mom's developed this belief of I have to be perfect. I have to do it all myself. And EMDR really helps to target that at some point and to shift that to something more helpful, right? Like I am worthy of rest or,
the world's not going to fall apart if I don't empty the dishwasher this morning and I do it tonight or whatever.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, I have a lot of moms that have told me, like, because I do ask on my intake forums, like, is there any sort of past trauma that would be helpful for me to know in my care for you? Because if it's not helpful for me to know, you don't need to share it with me unless you just want to. But it does help me to know if that is the case. And also, I want to know then, too, do they have a therapist on board that they have that helps them with that, right? But a lot of moms will say, like, oh, yeah, I have a therapist, but it's just their normal therapist. And then they think that will be helpful later, even though I say it's really important to find somebody who knows specifically about the perinatal period. They don't usually agree. They're like, I like my therapist. Because it is like a big thing
So,
after
yeah,
lunch.
absolutely.
And you like feel
It's
like you
a
have to
whole
explain
thing.
everything all over again. Because you're like, could I just write him a letter? Or could I just like explain all the basic stuff? I don't want to have to go back to that part. But then they realize this person is not helping me with these new fears that have been unlocked or worries that have been unlocked or anxieties that now I am dealing with. And then they're like, now I get it. This person doesn't have this specialty. And that's okay. It doesn't mean that your therapist is bad. It just means that they're not for this stage of life right now.
Absolutely. I get a lot of moms who come to me and that happened. That's exactly what happens. Like, yeah, I had a therapist up until this point, and I'm realizing like I need something more specialized. I'm like, good for you, because it's really hard to develop a new relationship like that. It's one of the most personal relationships you'll ever have, right? And it's so personal. So it's a hard thing, and it might be just what you need and worthwhile, right? For a season.
It could be totally a game changer. So if maybe a partner is listening to this, or a friend or family member, like they're noticing this they're listening to this going, oh, that's so-and-so, what would you say for them would be a good way to support a mom or a person experiencing this high functioning postpartum anxiety?
I think believe her, even if she looks fine, right? I think, if this is our partner, or somebody we love and care about, that we've known them for a while, we know that this is how they are, but things seem off potentially. Hey, a caring conversation of like, hey, I'm really worried about you, right? Like this is, I'm not really sure what support you need, but like, let's figure it out together, meaning you might know that it's like therapy or mental health support, but it's like, maybe you don't know who it is yet, right? But I'll help you get there. I am worried about because of this, and this. I think naming behaviors, right, that are concerning you. I think knowing the signs of perinatal mood disorders like postpartum anxiety, right? We have postpartum depression, which is what everybody I think hears about. But there's so many under that umbrella, right? Postpartum OCD, postpartum PTSD, right? Postpartum psychosis, of course. Like there's so many. And if we knew the signs early, if our partners, if our loved ones knew the signs, we could be catching moms earlier, not just moms, but parents, all, birthing parents and parents. And so asking specific questions, I think too, can I hold the baby so you can nap, right? Instead of let me know how you need help. And
I hate more, that blanket statement.
Right?
Let me know how you need help. Like nobody's going to ask.
I've started with my friends giving them a little menu, like, hey, here's a text message. Also, no pressure to respond, but would you like A, me to come over so I can hold the baby while you nap, B, a meal delivery, C, blah, 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 D, all of the above, right? I love it too. It's very specific, right? Offering very tangible help comes with that, right? So like meals, chores, childcare breaks, and then normalizing therapy, right? I think is critical, just normalizing it. Mental health, unfortunately, there's still such a huge stigma around this.
So I always say if somebody had diabetes, no one would judge them for going and getting insulin, but when it's mental health, it's like this unseen thing. Even though you can see behaviors, you can't really see the broken thing. And there's no like blood test that's going to show what's going on. So that can be so hard. So if somebody wanted to connect with you specifically or learn more about your work, and of course, I'll put it in the show notes too, how could they find you?
I would say I'm most active on Instagram. So you said that at the beginning, I'll say it again, and it's at Laura Sandoval Therapy. My website is www.laura-sandoval or sandoval-therapy.com. And my website is very, encompassing of so many things. What I love most about it is that any potential clients, right, could schedule a free 15-minute consultation directly on there. There's no going back and forth. They could just do it, see my schedule, which is amazing. Or if you're not ready, there's a contact form where you can ask me a question or reach out through there. I'd love to connect, whether you're a fellow provider who wants to collaborate, network, or a new parent who's listening and looking for support.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm going to have you back to talk about more things because this was way too fun. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, please take a moment to follow, rate, and review the podcast. It helps us reach more families who can benefit from this resource. For more resources, classes, and services, head to empoweredbeginningsatx.com or check out the Birth Baby Academy at birthbabyacademy.com. Until next time, wishing you confidence and calm on your journey through birth and beyond.